I'm Scott Elliott, and I'm here with Mary Ellen. I first met her when I started helping out at a local shelter years ago, and I have found Mary Ellen to be a very straight shooter, and so I'm sure that's what we'll get today. And so what I'd like to do is kind of start off with when did you start working at Brightside?
Yeah, I started working there 2018-ish, I would say, around there. I would have to double check, but a while back. And yeah, so I worked there as the adoption coordinator at first. I took over another chick's job, did the adoptions for 3.5 years, I would say, and then I went back to receiving, where you deal with returns, animal surrenders, the strays, the transfers, all that fun stuff. I did that for about 1.5 years before I left.
Mm-hmm. And when you first got there, like what was your reason for choosing to work at a shelter?
At the time, I would say young and dumb. Loved animals, thought they were all amazing. Everyone that loved animals were also amazing. Wanted to help animals get adopted to forever homes. One of those great dreamers. Mm-hmm. Then I worked there and realized that's not the case.
Yeah, that illusion kind of crumbled.
Oh, it crumbled good.
Yeah.
Now it's I love dogs, but don't want them.
Yeah. And so when you first started, you said adoptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you're dealing with the public a lot.
Yep.
And trying to match them with people that you feel like, hey, this is a pretty good fit.
Yep.
Vetting them to some degree as best as you can with what minimal information that you're given, right? And so when you were in that role, did you find that people would get upset with you because of turning them down?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like for instance, we would have, not to just throw this breed under the bus, but a lot of mean German Shepherds practically. A lot of German Shepherds, Huskies, larger breeds where they have a history of nipping at kids, biting kids, nipping at adults, biting adults, or going after dogs pretty violently. And they would get mad at me because I wouldn't want that dog around their 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So I would say, no, here's a nicer dog. And they'd be like, oh, I only want this dog. I'm like,
Yeah. And what kind of stuff would you hear in rebuttal? Like I imagine like
I'm a
saying,
trainer.
I'm a trainer. I've owned dogs all my life.
Yep. German Shepherd's my breed.
Yeah.
I know this breed.
I know the breed.
Yep.
And it's just like it's a job that you have to take responsibility of where you're putting dogs if you know certain information, right?
Yes.
Like even if it's like okay, like but you have kids, like we can't be giving you a dog that we know has had issues in these situations.
Yep.
Because it's just people. I think people will say a lot of things to try to get what they want.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what you start to see, and that's where that illusion started to, I'm sure, crumble. Where people tell you this thing, and then when you vet them out, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, wait a minute, you said this, and this is this, and so when you started with this adoptions, did you find that the shelter had a pretty successful time adopting out dogs for the most part?
I would say for the most part. The only time we had struggles is if we knew the dog had an aggressive past, like for sure, like we already knew that. If it comes in as a stray, it's a shot in the dark. We have no idea. Yeah. Hopefully this dog will do well.
Yeah.
But usually it did pretty good. Whenever someone starts doing adoptions, it's always a hit and miss. You kind of find your rhythm, and then you're like, you especially get a better read on people.
Better read on the dogs, I'm sure, and people, because you go, wait a minute, this dog reminds me of this dog that we brought in a few months ago. I'm seeing similar kind of behavior from it, so I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be somewhat like that dog.
You definitely got to see the patterns and know the patterns and act on the patterns.
Yeah. And did you find that employees or volunteers, if you denied someone a dog, did you find they were upset
Employees never.
Yeah,
Employees would understand.
Yeah.
They totally get it. They also see the issues. Volunteers, they would get pissed.
Yeah.
How dare I? How dare you not give this animal a chance? How dare they stay here? Blah 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 blah. But yeah,
And did you,
I didn't care.
and did you find that reason was because they just didn't spend enough time around the dogs, or they kind of had that illusion going on, a mixture? What do you think was the
illusion,
cause?
and they didn't spend a lot of time with the dogs.
Yeah.
The dog walkers that we had back in the day, they would obviously spend time with the dogs, but they only walked them.
Yeah.
They threw them on a leash, they gave them some treats, they gave them some meat they weren't supposed to, and then
Yeah.
the dog was their best friend
Yeah.
because they gave the dog whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And that, is always great. Then there's the volunteers that's never met the dog, only seen the photo, and
And they say it's so
thinks
cute.
that, oh,
it's
yeah.
so cute and sweet. I
Yeah.
saw a photo.
Yeah,
there's
like
no-
Manny. He'd be the sweetest dog in the world.
Yeah.
Manny sucks.
Yeah, I understand that. And so when the volunteers would give the criticism and stuff, like, was that something that you guys usually would just try to explain to them, or would you just kind of say, like, I'm gonna guess at first it was like, let's try to explain it to them. Then it started becoming, that doesn't even work.
I never explained it to him.
and then you just have to say it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what?
Yeah,
takes
no,
place?
I usually always just,
Yeah, let it just be.
yep,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, 'cause-
deal with that crap very well.
which I do get, because I started having experiences with the volunteers, and I tried to
Yeah.
explain and educate, but eventually you realize you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
You're going nowhere.
Yeah, the
And-
dog walkers I would try to explain because
Yeah.
they at least had a relationship
Like
with
to
them.
some degree, right?
To some degree, like,
Yeah.
oh no, they had a kid. They had Pippin, get your toy out here, you nasty drooler. But the volunteers that had no idea about the dog, no.
Yeah, and
They
so-
didn't care anyways.
So when you look at the shelter environment when you first started, how was that? Was there dog groups? Were they all having to kind of be walked individually?
They were walked individually. They were always inside a kennel. Then the dog walker had to go leash the dog, walk the dog through either the inside kennels or the outside kennels past other dogs. And when I was there before the dog groups happened, I got redirected bites, is that the right word?
Yeah.
3 times walking dogs just
Yeah.
past other dogs.
And from my understanding, talking to other people, it was pretty common, people getting bit.
Yeah.
The fence fighting, dogs pulling people down.
Oh,
just I mean everything that comes with everything that comes with the stress that I think most people typically think of when they think of a shelter environment, right?
Yeah.
And so when we look at it, it was kind of what I would say crate and rotate, where here's the dog in this kennel,
Yep.
and then we're gonna walk it, do a lap, maybe they take it to a yard, do some kind of activity with it, bring it back, and then from my understanding, there was a goal of hitting at least 3 walks a day
Yeah.
for each dog,
Yeah.
on top of then the kennel staff taking the dogs out to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the environment, you would say that it was chaotic, lots of barking, and every time I went there before I started implementing my program, that's what it seemed like all the time, just bark, bark, bark,
Yeah.
bark, bark, just constantly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's like when you live by a train, you eventually get used to the train.
You just block it
Yeah,
out.
you block it out, you get
Yeah.
used to it. But it takes a toll, that stress, that barking.
Oh, for sure.
And then I think that then people can feel bad for the dogs, which I totally get. But then that can lead to, I think, some impulsive decision making.
Oh, yeah.
People want it. Oh my God, I just feel bad for this dog. I'm just going to take it. Or
Yep.
they just say, why can't you just give it to that person? They want the dog. Like and it's like because they're not the right fit. And
Yeah.
and so when it comes to things, it sounds like it was mainly where the shelter really found it difficult once with the dogs that had aggressive pasts. That was usually the dogs that were going to be euthanized, unless it was a dog that had been like severely hit by a car or something like
Yeah.
that, right? But when it comes to just behavior, it was mainly that.
Yep.
Was there ever any time where it was because of overpopulation, or that's not a thing here,
No.
right? Like it is with some shelters.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
So-
And even the aggressive dogs, like rare would we ever euthanize them, or you Brightside. Not me. I mean, it would have to be severe, and that's usually when the dog sits there for like over a year,
Yeah.
and it just gets worse and worse because
yeah.
less people can walk it each time. Each
Yeah.
day goes by, the dog gets more mad. Less people can walk it, less people can handle it.
Yeah,
and all
kind
of
of
a
like
sudden
it's downward spiral,
Yep.
where it's
like,
just
well, only one person can touch it, so
eventually it's boom, and we can't even do it anymore,
Yep.
right? And that's what, to me, it's like, I think that often we think that it's just the shelter environment. We go, oh well, it's because the shelter environment's so stressful. But I always say, we're the one that creates the environment.
Oh, for sure.
We're the one, and I think that it's just lack of education, and the people that are educated, I would say, often are educated in dog training, teaching dogs to sit down, and when you were there, I'm sure you've seen a lot of different dog professionals, trainers
Yeah.
come in and out, yeah,
Yeah,
and
about 5, 6.
yeah,
around there.
and when they're approaching things, typically, how are they going about things? Like, could you give some examples?
Well, usually they just try to put a program together and then they try to teach it to the volunteers. That lasts about 3 days before they leave, just because the volunteers will not have it, will not listen to it, and it will not be reinforced.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, that's a waste of my time, I'm going to go. But
Yeah.
usually it's, have the dog sit before you take it out of the kennel, take it out of the kennel, have it sit, close the kennel, have it walk past these dogs without it barking, have it sit, give it a treat, have it sit, give it a treat.
Yeah.
A lot of that, but
Yeah.
they would usually give up after one left after the day he got there, because he's like, I'm not dealing with these volunteers.
Yeah. And when we look at it, it's like, it sounds like it's always like a one-on-one. This dog, we're gonna deal with this dog, and then we move to this dog and this dog and that dog, and when they would do these little drills, did you ever find that they worked, or did you find that it was kind of hit and miss, or never worked?
I mean, if all the dogs were happy-go-lucky, only been there for a day, maybe work for a week.
Yeah.
But the dogs that we had, no, there's no way.
Yeah. And this is where, it kind of, it gets exhausting, because if it's not working and we're not seeing improvement, like eventually people they give.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds like the trainers were giving more to they were having more struggles with the volunteers.
Yeah.
And to me, from what I see, is I even think that a lot of times I've heard trainers say, well, it's the environment. And it's like, yes, it is, but it's also, you can't use it as an excuse. I think that we have to understand, how do we shift the environment?
Yeah.
And so when I first got called in years ago, it was just, I first started out, I get a call, hey, we got this one dog that is looking at being euthanized, killed. Can you come in and check it out? And then I'd come in, I'd check it out, and then we would look to find a home for that dog. And once you have some good information, you could place those dogs, and as far as we know, they typically didn't come back.
Yeah.
You know, and that isn't to say that, you know, they got into a home and then the person's like, oh, we can't take them back
Yeah.
to the shelter, and,
Yep.
and then they euthanize them on their own.
Yeah.
I know that kind of stuff happens. It's unfortunate. I wish, you know, people would reach out or just follow through with just bring the dog back and we'll try again.
Yeah.
But with the volunteers, because I think this is a reoccurring thing that pretty much, I think that there's only one staff member that I could think of that would say otherwise about the volunteers. But what I heard was across the board, all staff agreed the volunteers create a lot of different issues. They might mean well,
Yeah.
but they just don't actually understand
Yeah.
what's going on, how things really work. And so I know that even with the vet staff, the vets would say, this, we can't walk this dog. This
Yep.
dog needs to be, and I saw personally that they didn't want to follow those
Yep.
rules. And this is the medical staff.
Yep.
And if they care about the dog's well-being, you would think that they would listen to the vets.
Not walk the dog.
Out of all of the people there, the vets, to me, that's who we all have to subordinate ourselves to. If the vets say we can't do something or we gotta say, okay, we gotta
Yep.
can't do it like this. And so I saw it like that too, where I remember one volunteer, I was showing a husky, because these people really like the husky, the Malamutes, and this one volunteer says, "Oh my gosh, you should show him Oscar. He's the sweetest boy ever." I said to the volunteer, "That dog killed a goat." And she said, "What?
Since when?
I didn't know that. Oh, he's so sweet. How did he kill a goat?" You know? And
Let's talk about death in front of a possible adoption.
And I was just like thinking, there's a reason why I'm focusing on this. They
Yeah.
don't need a dog that killed a goat.
Yeah.
That's not for them. They're hoping to start a family.
Yeah.
You know?
With maybe goats.
Like they don't.
Maybe they
don't
want
need
a
it.
goat.
Yeah. And so I just found that there was a lot of just not enough information for everyone about each dog, and so the volunteers, when I first got there and I presented, hey, this is my vision. Everyone's gung ho, right? Like so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Because of the vision. Oh my gosh, the dogs together. It's amazing because everybody wants the dogs to have a good time and to be able to be social and not to have to be in their kennels for long periods of time. And so I found at first, I was like, oh my gosh, like I was very optimistic. I felt like, man, we're going to be able to easily do this. Like everyone seems to be on board and getting it.
Why is everyone so mad about the volunteers? They're great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was actually thinking. But I sent out a questionnaire before I got there.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I wanted to have a better understanding before I even got there. So I had this questionnaire sent out. The staff and volunteers filled it out. And it was interesting because the volunteers complained about how the staff is a problem, and then the staff complained about how the volunteers were a problem.
Yep.
So to me, there was an obvious divide that it was staff versus volunteers.
Yep.
And so I see this divide, and I'm thinking, okay, we need to get rid of this divide because that leads to conflict.
Yeah.
It leads to unnecessary stress and energy given to these things that.
Creates alcoholics.
And it takes away from actually doing what we are all there to do.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy, like trying to get dogs adopted, take care of dogs, and then people have all their different opinions, which is fine to a degree.
Oh, yeah.
But there comes a point that if you're actually going against what the organization is saying, I think that you kind of have to start addressing that and saying, hey, if you can't get on board, you got to go find somewhere else that maybe fits more with your philosophy. Because I don't know any company that I always say it's like working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you keep telling everyone at McDonald's that comes, all the customers, about how Burger King is just so much better.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to make burgers here. Oh, they're awful.
Yeah.
These people they don't care about the process of making burgers.
Yeah.
And Burger King though does.
And
This person would not remain working there.
No.
No way. Go work at Burger King. You're in the wrong restaurant.
Yeah.
You're not a McDonald's employee. You're a Burger King employee.
Yeah.
You will make a great Burger King employee.
Yeah.
And so I really found that's what I started to see. I mean, I saw it first in the questionnaire. Then when I was there, it first was like, well, I'm not really experiencing that. I hear it. And I'm getting to where everyone seems like they're on Team Scott.
Yeah.
And I thought, awesome. But as I moved forward, I saw that once you start saying, well, you can't do this, or we're doing that, bam.
Yeah.
Now we have that divide, and it became very clear where the staff was, I found, except for one staff employee, they were like, oh my gosh, this would be so much better for me and my job and the stress levels for me, the animals. Like, I found that to be the case. Would you agree?
Yeah,
or?
I didn't have to get bit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's always nice.
Yeah, you didn't have to get bit. The barking and everything, reduces. Like, I think too, I know at first you start wearing adoptions, and then you pretty quickly when I was there, like, you switched over.
Yeah,
right?
receiving was always one of those jobs. We had, when I first started working there, we had an employee in receiving for, I don't know how many years she was there, for a good chunk, and she did amazing. But then she left to do bigger and better things, and then we had so
Kind of
many
in a
people
limbo.
in those. That's a very hard job to fill.
Yeah.
You have to be very straightforward. You have to be kind of like mean at times because you deal with the public and not a good side of the public.
Yeah.
So it's a hard job for people without a backbone to have. I have I don't give a shit attitude.
Yeah.
So I fit great back there.
Yeah. I thought it was a way better role than adoptions for you.
Yeah.
Like, because it requires that kind of mentality, and I saw that, like, from there was a guy working there when I first showed up, and I found that it took an emotional toll on him, and he wouldn't follow the protocols because the people would make him feel bad.
Yeah. You can't be very sensitive.
And you can't. You have to see it for, like, this is what we have to maintain.
Yeah.
And I get that you're struggling and you're wanting the best for your dog, but, like, we also want the best for the dogs and everything. And if we do this, it creates more of an issue for us, for the dogs, as we move forward. Right?
Yeah.
And so when you made the switch, you were now more in the back end of the place.
Yeah.
So you had just people when they came in to receiving and stuff, but no longer had to deal so much with the interactions of adopters. Volunteers even was more minimal to a degree, or no?
No, I'd say it's even higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's where all the strays are.
Oh,
and that's when they're like, oh my gosh, look at this dog, Mary Ellen. When's it ours? When's this one? Oh, it's going back to that owner. Don't give it back to that owner. That owner looks bad.
Yeah. I can see that now. Yeah.
They're all happy and go lucky with me up there. Back there,
yeah.
it's
my gosh, they're adopted.
Job!
Oh, there's someone there to see this dog.
Yep.
Yeah,
Back there,
I see that.
Well, look at this dog. Why didn't you take in that dog? That dog looked fine.
Yeah.
That dog killed a person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care.
Yeah. And so when you're back there and you start dealing with, because now it's a different role, but with the volunteers, and then the staff. Did you get any new insights from being back there, or was it kind of like same old, same?
I think if I was only there for, let's say, like I only did adoptions for a year and then receivings for a year, I'd be like, oh, this is a new experience. But since I've been there for so long already, it was kind of like, yeah. And even back in the day, we were open on Sundays for a very limited time because it was a stupid thing to do. So I worked that day and like no one else was there but me, besides some of the kennel staff. So I would like bounce all around.
Yeah. And that's what it kind of seemed like when I was there, was that it seemed like almost everyone kind of knew how to step into each role.
Yeah, we had to because we had such a limited staff.
Yeah.
And when I first started working there, the first 3-4 years, called it like the OG staff, where it's like everyone knew everyone's job, and it was amazing because we all could help each other. We all could pitch in.
Yeah.
There was no whining or bitching about it.
Yeah.
When someone called in, it was kind of like, oh, sucks, but we're fine.
Yeah.
And then recently it was kind of like, no, we only learn one job, and then when someone calls in, oh my God, what do we
Boom.
do?
Yeah. Well,
no one knows how to do this.
Well, that's what I started seeing was I was like, wait a minute, this person's gone. Now everyone's stressed out because what do we do today? And I was thinking, everyone needs to learn all these roles.
Yeah.
We all need to learn them all, even if that's not your main role.
Yeah.
We need to know them because, like you're saying, the staff is very limited.
Yeah, and it's not hard.
No,
just even the basic understanding.
It's I mean, because like I remember, we weren't necessarily open anymore on Sundays, but I would be there on Sundays, and sometimes you would get some random person that would come in, and then I'd have to learn how to do, like, because I would call Pat and be like, hey, this person's here, what do you want me to do? Well, you can accept the dog, like, and then she walked me through, like, I fill out this, have them sign that, do that. It's like pretty straightforward.
Very
stuff.
simple,
Yeah. But when we look at the overall program that I brought in, when I first got there, like I was saying, more optimism from me, I think from everyone else. But then once we started actually going, okay, we're going to implement the program, this is where this pushback starts to come. Would you say that was from the same people that are typically
the troubles,
the most problematic?
The same
group.
ones. Yeah. Everything new, everything that you have to tell them no, they're entitled and they don't like it.
Yeah, and when this started to happen, from what you've seen and from what you understand, do you feel like I was rude to them? Do you feel like I was ever yelling in their face?
No. You were very nice.
Yeah.
If the roles were reversed, it would be very different.
Yeah. And to me, I know that, like, some of the volunteers got to points where they were very frustrated and they came up yelling at me. And then I would try to, incorporate, like, what are you looking for here? Like, what do you want? Like, you want to walk dogs? Okay, we can make this happen.
Yeah.
Do you want to come in and just love on dogs? Well, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But there's certain protocols that we need to do because we're looking at what's best for the dogs. Do you find that some of the volunteers are coming in more for their own thing?
Oh yeah, it's just all about them.
Yeah.
They don't care about the animals. They just want to love on them and make themselves feel good and go home and be like, I did a great thing today. I pet a dog.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was seeing this. I saw some volunteers that were able to say, well, I really like this, but now I'm understanding, or I'm willing to at least listen to what you're saying and how this might cause an issue. And then we could work something out and we could come to a compromise of like, hey, you can do it. You can still come in and love on the dog, but don't be approaching them to love on them because it's like asking for consent. I call them over, and if they come all the way to you, you can rub them up. Yeah. But don't just go invade their space. Yeah.
You don't give a
isn't
random person a hug off the street.
No, you don't.
It's not fun.
No, you got to form relationships with these
Yeah.
dogs, and I know that you've probably seen some wild stuff being in adoptions. I remember being in the adoption aspect, and I would bring in a dog to show them, and they would start spooning with the dog on the ground. They would start like French kissing the dogs,
Yeah.
and I was just shocked,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, because
Yeah.
it just never has been, like, I was raised always to be very cautious around new dogs.
Yeah.
And slowly build up to your relationship.
Yeah.
And so when I saw people just getting a dog and then like in tears and spooning with dogs and doing these things and like, I just think, man, this is why people get bit so much.
Yes.
Right? And it just like, man, it was stressful watching, like, and I'm just like, please don't bite these people.
Yeah.
And so I started actually telling people, do not do that, which then you get upset people.
Yeah.
And did you find that the shelter was kind of always trying to be on the people pleasing side of the equation?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is,
yeah.
I get to some extent, like we're not there to be rude,
Yeah.
but we also, I think, as a shelter, like it is our job to tell them about. No, it's fine. He wants to just be in a conversation too.
Listen to me.
He's like, we're all talking, right? Like, you hear my opinion?
Yeah. I was in the belly when I was there.
Yeah. And so he's like, I get it.
Yeah.
It sounded like this. You know.
That's why I have hard of hearing.
Yeah. But yeah, I found that, like, I remember wanting to be very honest on the bios, because I saw a lot of like shy around people. It's like, but we know that the dogs bit people.
Yeah.
And
Not
but
that
we're
shy.
like, it's shy. No,
Yeah.
this dog's biting people. Like,
Yeah.
let's say, hey, this dog is bitten,
Yeah.
but we understand, we've learned why it's biting, how we should be going about it, and to find a successful adopter,
Yeah.
and for them to be able to be successful in the real world.
Yeah.
And so I was amazed by just trying to not upset anyone so that there was no conflict, but I found that it leads to more.
It does, yeah, because people get their hopes up. It's like, oh, I thought this dog was so shy.
Yeah.
If you're very honest about it right up front,
Yeah.
one, they don't waste their time even coming to the shelter.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, that's the only dog I wanted to see. I didn't know it did this.
Yeah.
Would have saved them a minute.
Yes.
It would have saved them a lot of time.
Yeah.
Would have saved me a lot of time. Would have saved the dog a lot of time that I brought out, explained, oh no, he bit someone, and have to bring all the way back in.
Yeah, and then it also cuts from you get the dog on these false pretenses,
Yep.
and then they bring the dog back saying, you lied to us.
Oh yeah.
You
Very
lied.
angry people.
Right? This dog ended up biting my kid.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the worst, you know.
Yeah.
And
Showing the dogs to people was always the most stressful.
Yeah.
Especially
Oh,
with
my
kids,
gosh.
because it's just
Kids and other dogs, like, because it was like, I always thought it like was kind of interesting where we had to show, like, if you have another dog, we have to do an introduction.
Yeah.
But then it's like,
On a
but then
leash.
but then we're not introducing these dogs to the dogs we have.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, no, we got to start putting these dogs together, and then we can really let people know, hey, this dog could have issue with certain, like, forward personalities of
Yep.
dogs. I see this dog doesn't really like dogs that are being fearful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and we could vet them. But when you were seeing the program and people were very upset. I know that some, at least one person had went to the board saying that I was abusing the dogs. Did you find this to be true?
No.
Yeah. And
No, my own dog went to your place
Yeah.
for like a week or two.
yeah,
So
yeah.
no.
And when we look at it, why do you think that was what was being said.
Because they're pissy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pissy. They don't. If you're not shoving treats down their throat and giving them hugs, it's abuse.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you tell your dog no and you
Yeah.
don't have him on the furniture, it's abuse.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just coddling dogs have gotten so out of control.
Yes.
Dogs are not babies.
Yes.
They can be part of your family.
And you know this firsthand.
I have a baby.
Yeah.
But dogs
Different.
are not your babies.
Yes,
They
they're
are your
different.
dog. They can be part of your family, but
Yeah.
they are also an animal with very large teeth.
Yeah, and a different mind.
Different mind. Yeah.
Different mind.
Yeah.
A predatory mind.
Yes. Yeah.
and some dogs not as much, but still.
Yeah.
They do not think like a human being.
No,
They
yeah.
think like a dog.
Yeah, I
And-
got 2 small dogs, and I don't trust them more than I can throw them. I got a
Yeah.
big Doberman, and
Yeah.
I have him around my baby, but I do not trust him around my baby.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, this is mother instincts, right? Like it is even in the wild.
Yeah.
They don't predators don't even allow other predators around their babies, right? And interacting in certain way. No, like even when dogs first have a litter of puppies, the mother will even keep the dad
Yeah.
away from the puppies.
Get out, Will. Leave the house.
Yeah. but yeah, so I always think that, you know, people misconstrue discipline with abuse.
Yeah.
You know, and you even see this in a crossover, I think, with kids. You know, a parent goes to discipline their child. Another person jumps in and say that's abuse.
Yeah.
And we have to consider also different personalities. That some kids don't need discipline in this way.
Yep.
You could look at them in a certain way. You could say, "Hey, don't do that," and they're going to be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, mommy.
Yeah.
I'm so
Bust in
sorry,
tears.
daddy."
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah. But in other kids, you mean this, and
Yeah.
they're going to do it again, right?
Yep.
And these type of kids need something more, just like there's some dogs. And so when this started, well, I guess let me back up for a second. I don't know how much you knew about how I first approached, but I had told the shelter before I even got there that, hey, there's certain trainers in the area that do not like me, do not agree. Some people say because of this person that I'm abusive.
Yeah.
I felt I was very upfront
Yeah.
with everyone coming in, like, hey, this is what I do, this is how I am, this is everything.
Yeah.
And
the shelter already knew all that, and they knew because the same trainer that had a problem with you had a problem with our other trainer who
Yeah.
was an angel.
Yeah.
And ran her out.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And it's because there's a different philosophy there, right? It's like a tribe. It's like we're human beings and we're tribal.
Yeah.
They're in this tribe, we're in that tribe, and well, we don't like each other.
Yeah.
Now, automatically, it seems like that's how it goes. And I was actually, when I first told everybody at the shelter, like before I really came in, like, hey, I'm having issues with this particular trainer. And then they said, oh, we have problems with this person too. I went, oh, like, well, we might be allies then,
Yeah.
you know? Because, well, you know,
Yeah.
it seems like, you know, that saying, what is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I started to feel. So I went, all right, well, because to me, like, I want to help dogs and people, and I don't want to waste people's time,
Yeah.
energy, and money.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just put it out. So one of the volunteers went to the board, said I'm being abusive because people were trying to tell the director Pat this and saying this is what's happening. She was like, no, and then they went to the board to try to go above her to try to get this to change. Well, the board then wants to come, or they want to send the president of the board to come and investigate. And I told them that no, all of the board needs to come in
Yeah.
and see what I'm doing, because I don't want it to be, well, the president came
Yeah.
and then they said this, and then later they say, well, I didn't know this was happening, or
Yeah.
no, let's get, like, rip off the Band-Aid. Let's have everyone come in, assess it. agree, you don't agree, we can talk about it, and if it's not what you want to do moving forward, let's end it now.
Yeah.
Because what I came in with was we're gonna have a trial period. And I'm like, all right, so let's do this. So I know that one of the board members was husbands of one of the volunteers that were not on Team Scott. And so once I requested that they all come in, he immediately stepped down.
Yeah.
And I remember that all the board members that came in said that it was amazing. I remember them all saying that they've had troubles with the volunteers for years.
Yeah.
That they're so excited to be able to start to actually shift this thing and deal with the issue with the volunteers, because what I brought in allowed this to actually start to take place.
Yeah.
And so from your understanding of things, is this what you remember, how things went? And then when you started seeing the program being implemented, what were your first thoughts and stuff about it?
I thought it was really cool. It was a lot more relaxing, if I could even use that word, inside a shelter.
Yeah.
It was just more structure, which was nice because we've never had structure, which was crap.
Well, that was pretty obvious to me. It was like there was no structure. Yeah, I mean, even the closet showed there was no structure. I opened some of those closets and I'm like, I feel like I was the first person to go into those closets for a while.
It's like the early 2000s just spit up on
it was like a time portal that things just got like sucked into, and it was just like,
can't throw anything away in that.
Yeah. And so I remember just organizing and putting structure in, and I was going around talking to all the staff, volunteers, trying to figure out what everybody's needs were, and so I would come and ask you and say, hey, what would make your job easier? And you would tell me, like, look, this is what my job is. I don't like that the volunteers are doing X. I think it's stupid that we're doing this, because then we're doing this and this and that. And you would let me know, the vet techs would let me know, and then I would be looking at creating the program to be built around the specific needs and requirements of the shelter. And did you find this is what I was doing?
Yeah.
And so when all this started coming up about abuse claims, and then we had a new hire that wanted to make false sexual harassment claim about me. Do you remember this? Yeah. And do you find that I was ever being anywhere near this kind of behavior?
No, I wouldn't have you in my house.
Yeah, exactly. Like around you, like it's like and this is why it's just like, it's crazy to have to deal with people that will make up things. And
that person was just whacked.
Well, and to me it's like it just felt like this. It's like it was just that it was like I felt like there was a lack of real power and influence at the shelter. There was like a void. Yeah. And so once I got there, well, I started influencing and control the whole dog side of like, this is what I think, this is how we should do it. Yeah. I submitted to myself to the vet techs, and then to obviously the director and the board. But when I look at it, I felt like it was a power struggle that had been going on before I got in, once I got in, and I think that most likely it's still the case.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And this is where I want to ask, with Michelle, if she ever saw any shenanigans going down with dogs, what would she be like? If she saw something that she felt was inappropriate,
she would have smacked you with a shovel, man.
Yeah, she did not tolerate nonsense when it came to mistreating dogs.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. She does not play around with that. Yes. She sees red. It hits a deep thing within her. Mm-hmm. And this is why I think, guys, everyone knows how Michelle is when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. So why is she advocating for me so strongly? Yeah. And she was the person that was with me more than anybody, than Emily. Mm-hmm. But Michelle ultimately was with me every day for months. Mm-hmm. And I just have found that the people that want to make these claims, want to say all this stuff, they don't ever want to meet in person. They don't want to actually hash it out. They don't want to do any of that. Mm-hmm. They just want to find people that they can form a group, and then they come forward to try to discredit you, ruin your reputation, your character. Yeah. But they will not try to have the conversation. No. And then it's annoying because then what they say is, well, we don't want to argue, or we feel that we're in danger. Yeah. And it's like, we can meet in public. We can go to the police station.
Rent a room.
We'll go to the police station. We'll ask cop, hey, we pay you to sit around and while we have this. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm telling you, like, let's get into it, because it's just, to me, ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It's like I find that
do you mind if I let out the smalls?
Oh, go for it. So, with your viewpoint of just, it was more relaxing for being in a shelter. The stress levels were down. Yeah. I think within the staff and within the dogs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the dogs were chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like if they started barking because some new person showed up, we were able to let them know, hey, we got it. You're safe. Yeah. And I felt like the dogs started to have a real understanding that we're safe, because I think that's often what's causing so much chaos inside of a shelter environment.
Yeah, stranger danger.
Yeah, they just don't feel safe, and everyone is, I don't know you, and then the people that they do are causing more stress. They interpret it as happiness. Yeah, because they're just
use the squeaky voice.
And they get riled up, and. And so I just think that there's a lot of misunderstanding there, but yeah. So the stress levels were down for the staff and for the dogs, and then some of the volunteers, obviously, that were just glad to see the dogs not losing their mind. Mm-hmm. And I know that the kennel staff was very pleased with this as well, because it's not enjoyable.
No.
Coming and just seeing dogs just neurotic.
Yeah.
And just.
No, it stresses you out.
It stresses you out, and I understand why then people would lead to euthanizing or killing the dogs because of it, because it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to just see them day in and day out like that. Mm-hmm. But I found once we started implementing the program and being able to reduce their stress by getting them together and getting them familiar, and we would act as a mediator, so that it's like dealing with a bunch of children, so they don't all kill each other. Yeah. But being able to say, hey, you can't approach it like that, and the stress reduces. We start to get some structure, but we find that the volunteers just they don't. Man, I'll give it to them. They are persistent. Yeah. They're stubborn. They're determined. Like I just wish we could have linked up and they could have used that determination to be going down the direction of what was actually I think visually obvious, and you could feel it, you could see it, that it was better for the dogs. Yeah. And this is where I said, it's like getting to a party and you get there and everyone's so excited. Oh my gosh, you're here. This is wonderful. And then they ask, how did you get here though? And I say, oh, in this Toyota Corolla. And they go, oh my gosh, you drove a Toyota Corolla. They have a problem with how I got there.
Yeah.
Like, who cares as long as we got here?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. We're having a good time and things are going well.
Yeah.
Why is it a big deal that this is how I got here?
I don't know.
And I think that's where people latched on to the way I was going about it, even though they liked the results.
Yeah.
Right? And before I got there and actually started like telling people, don't, can't do this, can't do that, and this is why. From what I've heard, volunteer, and I want to know if this is true or not from your perspective, but I was hearing that volunteers would actually be saying, we should call Scott.
Yeah.
We should get a hold of Scott. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad Scott was able to help this dog and he got adopted out and he didn't have to be killed.
Oh yeah. They were always wanting to call if we got a troubled dog and we were thinking about euthanizing. They're like, oh my gosh, we need to call him first and he'll save it and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because they didn't get to, like, it wasn't their issue once it was gone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's his issue now. And
now
now it's gone. Oh, thank God.
And they didn't see how I'm even getting there. So it just, oh my gosh, the dog's saved, right?
Yeah, they're like, wow, Scott must have some really good steak because that's all
Yeah,
it takes.
yeah. And I also know that most people think that once the dog leaves the shelter, then it's gonna be a great dog and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes that's true. Like the environment is stressful, and so the dog is acting kind of neurotic and crazy. But then when it leaves, you're like, I can't believe that person's at the food carts.
Yeah.
From what I was seeing when that dog was here.
Yeah.
But there's also a big part where that's just not the case, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
Should I bring out Manny?
Yeah. And so when we look at the groups, did you find that now with my program the dogs were spending more time outside of their kennel or about the same time or less?
Oh, they were always outside of their kennel. The only time they were inside is when we were locked up and left.
Yeah.
That was the only time they were back inside their kennel. Throughout the day, they were outside.
Yeah.
And then back in the day, they were in their kennel 90% of the time, had their walks, had their playtime for 15, 20 minutes, and right back into their kennel barking the entire time.
Yeah. I was trying to make it to where it was like more of like a home environment where it was like the dogs were all friends with, like at least getting around each other.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make the environment more where like if we did have long-term dogs, because I know the shelter, they were trying very, very hard to not have to put any dogs down.
Yeah.
I mean, they would try really hard.
Yeah.
And so some dogs would stay there for over a year. And so I was thinking that, look, that's fine, but let's make it to where the dog is living a great life while here. The shelter had a good amount of property that.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah, that the life there can be fantastic for a dog. They get to be around other dogs, which I think dogs are social creatures, that they want to be with one another. And when you see dogs that are having aggression, there's things that have happened in their past that's creating this. Not all dogs are like happy-go-lucky, want to socialize with every single dog all the time, and like, but they still like to be around one another.
For sure.
And so when you started seeing the implementation of this program and you saw the results, did you ever see it end up being negative for any of the dogs?
No.
But with the people, it was like we saw negative outcomes because of how they were perceiving that, right?
Yeah, they were getting pissy.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah, no, they were angry that they didn't like that. I know you're so tired. No, they would just get angry that they didn't get their snuggle buddy, and how dare you? Because it's all about me.
Yeah,
not the animals.
Yeah, and that's that's what I thought was like, it's tough because these volunteers have been there for a long time.
Long time.
Right?
Yeah.
And they had ties into, some people have ties into money.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have just then ties into the group. And then I think then when you're around people, you're trying to make relationships work.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to have to make this person leave, right? Like, because
Well.
I mean, I'm talking not necessarily you, but like overall, like how it kind of works. And
Yeah.
because I always, like, I wanted to make it work for everyone.
Yeah.
I thought I was considering everyone. I had a good plan.
You were, yeah.
And then as the months went on, I started realizing the only solution is letting certain people go. And then once that started getting out, it was like, it's even worse, you know, like.
Which would have made everyone's life better.
Do you think that I was ever doing anything in secret? Yeah.
No.
Was there anything ever being like, oh, it's got to be behind closed doors?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I kept saying, if people didn't agree, tell them to come in.
Yeah.
Tell them to come in. I'll
Yeah.
talk to them. I'll show them. I'll explain things. Because I know that I was getting told by the director that, look, Scott, like, I mean, people I mean, they want to end your career. They want to end your life. Like, they really have it out for you. And that kind of pressure is hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And I have a theory that I was let go in an attempt to try to lessen the stress for the shelter, but they still wanted to try to keep running my program.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and so they let me go. They continued to run my program, correct? And then Michelle, the person that I was really training the whole time
Yeah.
while I was there, she then tried to carry that torch. And then she started realizing how hard it really was,
Yeah.
because, and she got to the point that she actually was more strict than me.
Oh, yeah.
She started saying no volunteers at all can come back here and get involved because
Yeah.
they kept interfering with the dogs, the well-being of the group.
Yeah.
You know, and so after I go, what was it like from after I went until you left and
Oh yeah, we were all pissed. We were all mad, and we knew, you know, it was just crap that was happening. And then yeah, the program practically kept going, which was great. But then we knew, like, okay, when Michelle leaves, it's not going to be around because.
she's
we thought,
she's carrying the torch.
yeah. So we just knew that it was
It was
borrowed time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was ridiculous. And then once that happened, the volunteers had like a new, like, I don't know, like appreciation for themselves, because then they went full force after that.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if this is true or not. You know, I hear things through what they say is the grapevine. But I heard that they fired some people, and then they would tell everyone else a different.
Oh, they weren't allowed back in receiving. They came back and received, got shoved in the chair. And yeah, I just went to shit.
Yeah.
And then more people were leaving. Some just had babies and just had to leave. And then more people were leaving. And then the board got new board members that, horrible people, and let people go while giving them practically the middle finger.
What I also heard was that the director, she was going to be actually retiring.
Yeah.
And that was what she was set to do. They then kicked her out.
Yeah. Well, they asked her to stay first.
Really?
They were like, can you please stay so we have time to find new people? And she's like, all right, fine, I'll stay till blah, 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 blah. They kicked her out like a month prior.
Yeah.
In the biggest
that's
fuck
what
you kind of way.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like.
Oh, it was, oh.
Yeah, and
I would
which is
throwing
crazy.
stuff.
Which is crazy because
Yeah.
of really what she has really put in over the years and years and years.
Yeah.
That what she's tried to do to make things continue to move forward, you know, and so I don't know if you know about this, but then they were looking at killing a dog named Boone, and they were like, they heard people said, "Oh, get a hold of Scott."
Yeah.
So the new director calls me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, do you guys have like amnesia? Like
Dumbest people.
you let me go.
Yeah.
Like you guys let me go.
Yeah.
And now you have a dog that you have to kill is what you think because they're being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the new director, I say, look, I can help you. I can come in, I can educate your staff on and understand what's going on with the dog and educate the staff on how to deal with this dog.
Yeah.
And then what kind of home we should be looking for, and I can help you in that process too.
Yeah.
And she says, well, we're actually hoping that you would just take the dog. and so I was amazed.
Yeah.
Because I was let go because they didn't want to deal with the pressure. It had to have been that, because if it was about abuse, why then would they be trying to give me a dog?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you can just take this one.
Like, and so she said that the shelter wants to exhaust all options before having to euthanize. And I told her that, I said, well, you're lying.
Yeah.
You're lying.
Yeah.
Because I just gave you one, and you don't want to take it.
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's just that the shelter environment is just a really hard place. I said, I don't think you're familiar with me and what I've done, but I literally have been in that shelter that you're in right now.
Yeah.
And I've been able to have all the dogs together. I've been able to reduce their stress. I've been able to adopt out every single dog that we had gotten in.
Yeah.
We had been able to do that. No dogs had to be killed while I was there.
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, it's just a shelter environment. I said, but we create it. And I was really bummed because the president of the board is still the same person who was praising me when I was there.
Yeah.
She even said,
she's two-faced.
Yes.
Bad.
And that's what I felt. I felt that it was two-faced.
Oh, yeah.
And so I respectfully wrote her an email telling her my disappointment. Well, I really actually first asked to sit down with her and have a conversation to understand what's been going on and what happened. Why, because I'm confused now that I'm getting called by you guys wanting my help with this dog to take him on. And she said, Bright Side is moving forward. We're looking towards the future. We don't want to rehash the past. And we're using shelter's best practices now. And
before I
I
left,
wanted
they
to
wanted
know
me
about
to,
that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I left, they wanted me to do a program, like an online, what's it called? Like that.
Oh, is it the fear-free?
The fear-free program.
Yeah.
That's why I left. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because they needed me to do that.
Yeah.
To stay on the staff, and I'm like, doing some hour-long dumb crap that you're just gonna skip anyways.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
And-
because then I couldn't use any of the things I have to use to give a dog vaccines.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a stray dog.
Yeah.
I don't know this dog.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in its face to give
Yeah.
it vaccine. I'm going to
Yeah.
do every mean possible to not get bit
Yeah.
and killed by this
Yeah.
stray dog. So, yeah, they wanted you to do a workshop. Then you have to prove that you did some hours doing it, and then they bought a whole new container of Kongs,
Yeah.
some other toy. I forgot what it was. It threw away every single muzzle practically.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And when they started implementing shelter's best practices, how did that look compared to my program?
Stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I may be fear-free
envisioned
not.
it. Yeah, of course. It's even probably it's actually more fear, more
for
stress,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I envision it going back to like putting tarps up on kennels
Yes.
and
I'm gonna lay him down.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll take. He'll just cry in the background.
Yeah, it's all good. It's like I deal with dogs that they want to throw fits too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you get used to just like it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, when I got that email saying that she's like, no, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And we're doing shelter's best practices.
Mm-hmm.
I then respectfully emailed back, reminding her that she had praised me when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
That I reminded her of all the dogs that did not have to be killed because of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That Banks was a dog that she specifically told me she thought needed to be killed, and then she could not believe how he was how that change around instantly was, and now that dog that she felt was so awful that needed to be killed because he was so dog aggressive now lives with I think 7 other dogs.
That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
he lives with like a pack.
Yeah, he lives with a whole pack of dogs, and so I just was so amazed that someone could see, and she runs the vet school, from my understanding. She does the COCC stuff.
From last I heard, I don't know if she's still.
I don't know if she's still, but when at this time.
Yeah.
And she was saying about how the stress levels, because they would borrow dogs from the shelter to use
Very
for
limited.
their program.
How many they could.
Yeah, and she said that it was so amazing because after the implementation of the program, they didn't have any more of the dogs being reactive on leash, trying to kill each other while they're trying to teach students on how to deal with the veterinarian side.
Yeah.
And she just said it was just so amazing. She was so on board. She had problems with the volunteers too. I have emails of her actually stating these problems that she had.
Yeah.
And so this is where it's just interesting that people are trying to paint me in a certain way. And I have all this stuff to back it up at least.
Yeah.
But it's still annoying. But you found the two-faced behavior as well.
Yeah.
And I was pretty shocked. Were you shocked by that with this person? Because like forever it felt like, I mean, we're all aligned on this same thing.
She was with the staff on 99% of everything that was going on.
Always.
And then right at the end, I don't know if someone just went up her ass or paid her off. I have no idea. But it was a full 360.
It was a flip.
She wouldn't talk to staff members who she was practically friends with.
Yeah.
Got rid of a lot. And like, there were paychecks being held.
Yeah.
I remember one of the employees didn't get a paycheck till like 3 weeks later.
Wow. Yeah, because to me, I was just like, I remember when I got the email back, I was just like, okay, you're not going to talk to me, so let me just tell you how I feel about this. Get it, because I was hoping that maybe I could reach her emotionally.
Yeah.
Where she was like, oh yeah, like what am I doing?
Yeah.
This isn't benefiting the dogs. This isn't benefiting people. Like it's an illusion. It's great marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Who doesn't want fear-free? Like the idea.
Yeah.
But when you actually think about it, if you are fear-free, that's dangerous. You'll die.
Yeah.
Fear is very important in certain aspects.
I can't
but but this is where it's very political. It's a very political environment.
Yeah.
And
Which is weird because it's an animal shelter.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, right? Like you get a group of people around, and we're all looking to gain power and influence, and create things to go the direction we want it to go.
Yeah.
And it just naturally happens like this.
Yeah.
And this is why I started thinking that, with this power vacuum and then me having the ability to, I mean, I could deal with all the dogs at one time. You know, it would take the staff like an hour or more to let out dogs to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I could do it in less than a minute and a half because I could just open up their kennels and
Yeah.
they could all go out and go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it was an
And-
ordeal.
Yeah, and so I know that I saved the shelter money. I know time, energy,
Yeah.
emotional stress to some degree, because the emotional stress that came with me of people also trying to fight this
Yeah.
thing was a thing too. But
Yeah.
but if you remove that aspect, the day-to-day operations were very, very smooth.
Yeah.
Very nice. And so after I had left, it just started nosediving is what it sounds like to me.
It was on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And I feel like all like the staff members that have been there for more than, I guess, 6 months, because that's as long as people are, knew that
Yeah.
it was just like, all right, well, this will be fun.
Yeah, and when we look now, how many of the original people are still there?
There's only one, however, well, I guess, I don't know if it's still there. Last I heard, she might not be. But yeah, maybe one or two. But
Yeah.
those they just mostly dealt with cats.
Yeah.
Well, one tried to deal with dogs, and she shouldn't have dealt with dogs.
Yeah. And so that's what I was hearing is that people that have been there for years, up to the new hires, like, well,
Yeah.
at this point, then
Yeah.
it would have been years, but they all have left,
Yep.
or had gotten fired,
Yeah.
which I thought was
The
was
dumbest
crazy.
thing they could possibly
Like,
do.
it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, these people are very dedicated to the job, but what I think is that they were pushing back on the agenda that they wanted, which is hilarious because I wanted to get rid of the people that were a problem,
Yeah.
and everyone were up in arms by that.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they just do it.
Yeah.
And they get rid of the people that actually
Cared.
cared,
Yeah.
they would come. If there was a call at 3 a.m. because there was a problem,
Yeah.
we need to evacuate dogs, everyone would be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's funny you should say that, though, because when we had that fire really close to the shelter, everyone that really did care stayed really late. My husband brought a bus to evacuate cats.
Yeah.
We were all doing that. The people that didn't really care, they would just load up a few dogs and then they went home.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't stay late. They didn't go pick up the dogs at 6 a.m. to bring them back to the shelter.
Yeah, it's just sad and frustrating
Yeah.
when the people that, it's just such a good move, like like the tactic of saying, oh, you know, we don't want to do harmful things, neither do we.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's this marketing and the way that it's presented. People are for sure going to naturally, that don't know anything, are going to jump on that bandwagon,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And this is where it's like, it sounds good in theory, but then when you practice it, it doesn't work.
No.
And so I said that my prediction is that once I had left, that if Michelle was there, it would hold to some degree.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point that I was telling Michelle, you need to leave.
Yeah.
You need to leave.
Yeah.
It is not worth it. Like, and this is the thing. She's like, no, I gotta stay because these dogs need me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
Michelle,
no.
you'll be trapped forever if you are like, it's like, yeah, we care about the dogs, but look at what's happening overall to you, your well-being.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have a breaking point. You should be in control of this, like, where you should first look for a better opportunity, line it out,
Yeah.
and then move
Then
into
go
that.
away.
And I told her, I said, once I get to a place that I can hire on people, I'm
Yeah.
like, you're gonna be my first person
Yeah.
that I hire because you get it. Yeah, I think that the overall thing was people just didn't have, they had it out for me, and I think that the trainer that has a problem for me actually exacerbated the whole thing.
He likes to talk,
Yeah.
and he likes people listening. And
And-
the more crap he can come up with, the more people listen.
And so about that, like, I know Michelle had made a comment to him saying that, hey, have you ever actually talked with Scott?
Yeah.
Have you sat down and all this? And then he private messages her about how, you know, that he would gladly sit down and talk to Michelle and I, and he'll bring some of my old clients, and that I'll never do it because I'm a coward.
Yeah.
And then he says in this private message about how he's the reason why I got let go from Brightside. And I go, all right, well, cool. He wants to meet up.
Yeah.
So I wrote him a message on Facebook saying, hey, good morning. Heard that you would be up to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. Let's look at after Christmas. This is back December 16th. And still hasn't read my message. I then had Michelle, hey, can you please reach out to him, let him know
Yeah.
that he probably has a message from me in his I forget the message request box
Oh,
or whatever.
yeah.
You know, sometimes if you're not friends or whatever,
Yeah, it
it
goes
puts it
into
into
your
this
folder.
into the
Yeah.
folder. So I'm thinking, oh, he probably hasn't seen it. Still haven't heard anything. So I might have to look up his private email or try to get his phone number
Yeah.
and give him a call and say, hey, because to me, let's have a sit down. Feel free to bring anybody you want,
Yeah.
because to me, I think most things get blown out of proportion. Not saying that I've never made mistakes through what I've done, but do you find that from what you've seen, he'll ever have a conversation?
No.
That's what everybody keeps telling me.
He's a pussy.
Everyone
Pansy,
keeps-
whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, everyone keeps telling me that he just won't have the conversation with me. And I just think it's funny because if that's true, he's calling me a coward,
Yeah.
and I'm like, maybe this is just a internal thing, you know, because I know personally and that I've had clients that have said that, you know, he's yelled at them, but I don't know if that's true or not, because he might just have been direct,
Yeah.
assertive, and you took it as, oh, he's yelling at me.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't like what he was saying, so you felt attacked. I don't know. But I also do know that I've had multiple clients that said, yeah, Scott, he recommended that we isolate our dog, that we kill our dog. And then I work with them, and that doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because I have never, I don't agree with how he goes about things, but I'm not going around looking to attack him and stuff.
Going on his Facebook. Ah!
Yeah, and I had a client that lived next door to one of his clients.
Oh, Lord.
And it was funny because their dogs are fence fighting.
That's right. You want to do the flag thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I say, hey, I say to my client, I said, tell your neighbor that let's just introduce their dogs together.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that will cut down on the reactivity,
Yeah.
and we won't have this issue. And if we then still do, we'll address them and let them know that it's not acceptable to be fence fighting. That's not how we go about this.
Yeah.
And so my client tells them, then they tell this trainer, and this trainer says, don't you let that monster near your dog. He always calls me a monster, you know. And so he says not to let this monster around their dog. And he says to them, what you need to do is you need to build a second fence along your existing fence. And then you put a bandana on the fence so that you can throw it over the fence. So when your dog's outside, they know don't let their dog outside, and vice versa.
Fun.
And I told my client, I said, do you want to do that? She said, no, I got this wonderful backyard so that my dog and I can enjoy it.
We need weight fence.
Right? And so now I can't bring my dog out because they're dogs. And then what kind of conflict will that start, right?
so funny.
You had your dog out for 2 hours. I get now this time. Why do you get the
Why is your
afternoon?"
bandana out?
Yeah. And so I could only imagine what that would lead to.
Yeah.
So I told my client, I said, "Listen, okay, we'll just teach your dog, don't go fence fight then." It would have been better if we could just introduce everyone gets friendly, then they could be playmates and we could have a great time.
Yeah.
But that's not the course they want to take, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll just discipline the dog, make him feel that it's unacceptable to get involved in that like that.
Yeah.
And so we did. The dog stays away from the fence, stays in the house for a little bit, and then I told the client, just start bringing him out to go to the bathroom, and he'll start learning that as long as he doesn't get involved in that fence fighting with that other dog,
Yeah.
everything's safe in the backyard. It's all good.
Yeah.
Just don't go get involved in that. That's dangerous. It can get you in trouble. The client then later writes me and says, "Scott, oh my gosh, I think that the neighbor's dog just killed a bunch of their chickens." And it sounds like they've moved to the remote collar because I heard the owner yelling and then the dog was screaming and yelping and stuff. And I just think that it's interesting how one person's opinion can affect someone to where they won't think that they should look into what I'm doing. They just believe it.
Yeah.
And so I just want people to just look into it. You might not agree. You might think that discipline is abuse.
Yeah.
To me, it's not. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to teach a lesson, and I'm not just, being like, "Oh, I enjoy beating." I don't want to beat dogs.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
So when we look at all this, I think that it sounds like it's a small group of people that make a lot of noise.
Oh yeah.
And social media gave them like a megaphone.
Yeah.
And so what do you think, looking back, is there anything that you think I could have done better or I shouldn't have done? What are your thoughts on that?
No, working there, you do what you can do. You try to make things better, you try to make things easier, and it just won't happen because of leadership's not there. The volunteers that make the most ruckus, who will make your life hell, will always still be there. They're still there to this day.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that the staff can do. There's nothing really that any sort of leadership can do as long as they are still there.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah. became
pointless to work there.
And so you agree with that, the solution that I ended up coming to of we have to get rid of these people that are problematic to
Yeah.
the internal well-being of the group.
That's the
You
only
agree
solution.
that that's the only solution, right? It's the only one. I mean, I tried for months trying to figure out all these different ones to keep us all there, everyone feeling like they're doing their part, or even if they just want to come because maybe they're sad and lonely and just want some companionship.
Yeah.
Cool. But don't be doing these things because these dogs aren't here to just make you feel better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you that. And then people will say, well, there's ESAs, emotional support animals, but not all dogs can actually perform that job. Just like I don't think that you would probably make a good therapist.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think that's your gig.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The
I
dog that
think-
wants to try to eat children probably shouldn't be in a candy store
Now,
because
ma-
of your emotional
Yeah,
support.
I think that your personality needs a different kind of job.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm maybe a job where it's like I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna let you know what's happening and who we need to weed out.
Yeah.
That might be a better job,
Yeah.
right? But each dog is a living thing, and I know that someone in my review section said that emotional support animals are considered medical equipment. And I'm like, what? They're not medical equipment. These are living beings. And we have to look at each individual personality of these living beings and how does what you're doing affect them? Because if you're then having your dog have these behavioral problems, that you're adding more stress to their lives.
Yeah.
Because of what you and what you want, and now you're trying to fix the dog because of their problem. No, it's created because of you, and that's not something that people want to hear.
No.
You know,
No.
It-
I didn't cause
it-
this. No.
It's like it's like I went to a counseling session years ago, and I was sitting in the waiting office, and this little kid is getting dropped off by his parents, and they're like, "All right, Timmy, we're gonna be back in about an hour, okay? You be on your best behavior." And the counselor says, "Wait a minute, where are you going?" And we're like, "Oh, we're gonna go run some errands while you work with our kid." And they said,
Because it's not my kid after I drop it off.
they said, "Hey, actually, we need to talk to you." And the parents say, "Why? It's our kid that has the problem. Why do you need to talk to us?" And he's like,
Lord.
"Oh, well, we just need some more background information, make sure we're understanding, and it's always more comfortable for the kid." And I'm thinking, no, they're thinking, you're part of it. You know, like,
God.
this is how it works.
Yeah.
Like some things, sure, your kid could have a genetic thing. Say they're born with autism. You don't directly have an effect. You didn't create the autism per se, you know, you didn't, something you didn't create it.
Yeah.
But you have a role in how it's going to unfold moving forward.
Yeah.
Right? And so I find that a lot of times people might feel like I'm attacking them
Yeah.
because I'm telling them something that they really don't like to hear. And I think that you have experience in this realm too, where you tell someone something that is truthful, but they don't want to hear it. And then I feel like they've learned that kicking and screaming and throwing a fit and calling names will get them somewhere.
Yep.
And it enables their behavior, and then it continues, and it can get very extreme, and to the point where people will make up lies that people are accusing me of crimes. They're not just like, well, he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
You know?
He yelled at me.
Like, it's not like just like, oh, I felt like he kind of came off like an asshole.
Yeah.
You know? No, they're saying he gets off on abusing dogs and women. He sexually harassed women. He's physically harmed people.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes where it's like, at this point, I'm saying, well, let's go the legal route then.
Yeah.
You wanna make these claims?
Yeah.
I would much rather, let's go to court, bring your evidence.
Yeah.
And let's just get it over with. Let's figure out what the courts have to say, you know, because at this point, it's like, there's, I think, nothing other than that option, because I've tried ignoring for years. I'm just like, I'm just going to continue doing my thing. They don't understand. And it just seems like after Brightside, I think because Brightside has so much more attention on it, it just amped everything way up.
For sure.
And so, yeah, I'm curious, is there anything else that you feel like is important that you would like to say, or you feel like we covered pretty much the gist?
That's about it. The volunteers, 90% of them suck.
Yeah.
They should have been fired. If you can fire a volunteer, they should have been gone. And they're still there.
Yeah. And that's why I thought that at the end of the day, it came down to poor leadership. I think that it's tough to make decisions because it's scary. It's scary when you start rustling feathers. It can be like, oh man, like especially if you get rid of people that are big donors, right?
Hasn't donated in years.
Yeah, but it's this idea that keeps people hooked in, right? And I think that, to me, if I were to look back, if I were to try any different approach, I think I would have been way slower at the implementation of the program. Here's one little aspect, let that ride. Now
See how it goes.
and now this aspect and that aspect over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
I was very optimistic and very excited, and I actually felt like I went really slow and patient.
Yeah.
And but then when I think about it, I'm like, could I have been even more slowed down and even more patient? But I don't think that I'm just thinking of, like,
as long as they see one thing.
Yeah,
they will hold on to that forever.
Yeah, and this is why it's like, then when they see this one thing, you can't even have a conversation about it because I've tried. You then try to talk about it, and then literally I've seen it where the person can't actually logically debate me on that. And so what they switch to is just name calling.
Yep.
They call me names. They say that I'm a mean person. They say that these kind of things.
Yeah.
Or they'll try to switch the topic completely, and then they come up with, well, I'm also upset about this. And it's like, no. We'll get to that.
Stick with this one for now.
We're going to stick here.
Yeah.
And then people would stop even trying to push back. And then everything started where I wasn't getting a lot of volunteer problems anymore.
Yeah.
Because I would just hold my ground, and then I wouldn't play into the games. And then I just saw it all happening on the back end of things.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because you have the same answer that Michelle had. That there's just nothing that could have been done.
No.
That I did the best that you could when it comes to dealing with them. And I'm sure that this is not unique to this shelter. I bet you that this is happening all across the country with shelters. And I think that shelters love getting volunteers because if you don't have to pay people, but you can run the shelter without having to pay anybody, and you keep the staff to the bare minimum, so it's more profit. And even though they're a lot of them non-profits, but come on now, people are getting paid unless they're volunteer, but it's barely. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's this
scraps.
Oh yeah, and this is where I broke it down because I went in and I said, look. They said, look, we don't have much money. And I said, that's not really what it's about for me.
Yeah.
I want to actually help dogs and people. I think this is a great opportunity to see what I can do inside of this kind of environment. So I said, look, I'll do $2,000 a month. And when I started breaking down my hours, because I was working 7 days a week, and I was putting in at least, at the very beginning, I was doing at least 12-hour days.
Yeah.
And when I broke it down, it's like I'm making maybe $8 an hour, maybe even less. And that's not even including all the adopters that needed some help. I never charged them. And so after I got done, I then would go and work with them. And so, it's crazy. Because people were saying that like I just in it for the money, and I'm like,
what money?
What are you talking about?
we get free vaccines. Oh my god!
I told the volunteers, I said honestly, I think you might make more money than I do.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty crazy.
Oh no, I think they really forget the volunteers. We make crap.
Yeah.
We get yelled at by you.
Yeah.
We get yelled at by the public.
Yeah.
We get yelled at by the homeless community because, oh my God, we stole their dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't make anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a very stressful job. And this is why I think that in order to be very successful, it actually takes personalities that can actually just rustle the feathers in a respectful way.
Yeah.
But draw a line. And I saw that it'd be this is the line, guys, and then we come in the next day, no, it's over here now. It's over here now. And it just gets frustrating. And then when I started looking, like, because I was amazed when I started looking at like the vaccine price, everything to just bring the dog in, how much money was going to the dog. And then the adoption fee that we're then giving the dog out for, I'm like, no. The adoption fees need to be way higher.
Way higher.
Way higher.
Most every other shelter I've ever seen, it's usually $500.
Yeah, way higher. Like
which
this
makes
is,
sense.
Yeah, but this is where it's like, again, I think good-hearted people, but like you alluded to, the backbone issue with being in receiving, it's across the whole board. If you don't have that, you get walked all over, and then you're just fighting for scraps, and that's what it felt like. It's like, and then it can just start to wreck everything, and this is why I think then the solution everyone thinks of is we need more volunteer help because we don't have money. No, we need to charge more,
And they have
and
money.
we can actually we could put it into it saying, look, it's this much money for this and this and that, and my idea was to log all the information for each dog, because I think we could have made it custom for each dog.
Yes.
This
Did we
dog's
have to
been
spay and neuter
yeah,
them?
spay and
Did we have to
neuter,
do these
all of this,
vaccines?
yes.
Yeah.
And then how long has the dog been here? How much do they eat a day? How much does that mean in food?
Yep.
How much does that mean when we're looking at cleaning? Does this dog make a big mess all the time?
Yep.
Or is this dog take more time for whatever reason?
Yeah.
And we factor it all in. So then we, as a shelter, could have felt like, oh, we're getting somewhere. And I think then if you can then get to paying employees better, you then get, and then give them a feel like they have a stake in it, then you start having even better performance, better solutions, better everything. But this is why I'm still friends with all the staff that was really in on it, because I went, oh, everyone here's like me, like it's like me, and really care, but we all, seem to have gotten screwed over. But I'm sure that being at home is probably a lot better than.
Yeah. No, when I was pregnant, my husband told me, I will make you quit that job. I'm so tired of hearing you bitch about working there. So I would rather pay all the bills than have you work there anymore.
Because at some point, like, you have to let this stuff out and go, like, you can't just take it on and just hold it there.
His poor ear.
Guess
what happened today?
Well, that's how Thea can feel too, because it's like, and she's just like, every day she's like, so how did it go? And I'm like, well, this happened, and then that happened, and I said this, and actually after all of this, I go, well, it's helped me not be so naive. Like, I realize how people can really be. I had an idea, but like, I never have experienced it like towards me, and like big lies being made up in the way like that they have. I've always had people I've always had weird stories going around before, but like not in this way. And so, but I look at it and I just think, wow, like the amount of time and energy that like we put out, just trying to put out these fires that shouldn't even be fires. Right?
Yeah.
They shouldn't be fires. And we're spending all that time, and then you get home and you have to kind of unravel all that because it's so much stuff that you're constantly getting bombarded with. And this is why I realized, I said, I had this idea of like, going into Brightside, switching the shelter up, proving this model, and then other shelters wanting to adopt it, and then helping, so on and so forth. But then when I realized, I went, oh, wait a minute. This is like a big money-making machine that they're all linked. They do not want to do any of that. They and I go, you can't, fighting the system, you're going to get attacked. Because you're taking money out of my pocket, you're changing things away from what's going to be beneficial for me. And so I realized that if I'm going to do this, I have to create my own place. And it has to be my own thing. But even then, you're still going to get attacked because you're now going against that system. I can't imagine how much money the people in the higher up positions are making off of just the suffering of dogs and people.
Well, when they let go of everybody, I heard through the grapevine how much the new people were making, and that they even had an ad up, which was hilarious, that this person would be making blah, blah, blah an hour and get benefits. We've never gotten benefits. And they said we won't get benefits. But this one person can get benefits, which you cannot do. They pat it out there, and we still got paid crap. And when I found out how much these people were making, and that they weren't even making that, they were traveling from California back and forth. We were paying them to travel back and forth and pay for their hotel or Airbnb or whatever.
It's crazy.
Yet me and my husband had to buy a heater for receiving because it was freezing.
I remember that.
We had to build a gate because of all that crap. We
Yeah.
had to remove all the trash in the back.
Yep.
And loaded it up, dumped it, and so many employees have done their own money out of things.
Oh yeah, same for me.
Yes.
I spent money just to try to create it to become something better. And
Did we ever get a thank you from the higher ups? No.
No, it just doesn't work that way. Like unless you had put some pressure on them or some way, right? Like
Yeah.
then they'll say something.
Yeah.
And that's why I relate with your story of I went in where I thought I didn't have such an illusion, but I did to some degree. You know, I had this illusion that, you know, we were gonna like people were gonna really understand, and it was gonna it was just gonna be awesome. And then I started seeing how the dynamics really are, and then it helped me grow to realize that, hey, sometimes you have to let people go. And I think that's in the future it's going to be a very beneficial lesson for my own personal business, knowing that sometimes you just have to cut. And actually I started doing this with my clients where I don't work with everyone anymore because I used to, and I think that caused a lot of problems for me. Because people that I shouldn't have been working with, I did, and then they have an opinion or they feel a certain way about it, and then they go off and spread the poison off to people, and so I've become very, very picky at who I'm working with and slowing it down, and it's kind of like a hiring process for my clients now, instead of just, oh, you have a problem, like, and then trying to sell them on why they should work with me. I flip it now. It's like, you need to be selling yourself to me of like, this is why I want to work with you. Oh, I've watched all these videos, and I've seen this, and I've tried all this, and you know.
Because then you'll get people that actually want to do it,
Yes.
actually want to try.
And then it works. But,
and then it doesn't make yourself go down a freaking spiral.
Oh my gosh. Like,
My God.
like this is what happened. Like, because I dedicated 9 months to the shelter.
Is that all it was? My God, I felt like 17 years of my life.
It felt like a good amount of time, because
I guess that was true. It was like all of M's pregnancy, huh?
Yep. And so I was very. When I got let go, I remember Pat telling me, like, look, I think it's best that we part ways. And I said, look, like, I don't want to be the reason something gets brought down. And it seems that everyone has it out for me to where they don't want to let it go. But I think that I felt like it would have been best to just move forward, hold our ground, and prove what we're doing. And I think we would have been very successful. But I just was like, all right, so I get let go. And then it was just like, I need to reevaluate everything. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And I realized, I'm like, you know, first of all, the dependable canine, it doesn't even it's like, sounds like training. It's not what I do. Like, so I just started like looking at where I could grow, where I could shift. And I started seeing like, oh my gosh, I've created so many problems by trying to get people to understand something that they're never going to. They just want to argue sometimes, you know? And we just go around and around, and how much energy and time I've wasted. And I go, I can't do that. So now, like, I catch myself, like, I'm like, oh, I think we're good here. I don't need to try to explain this any further. Because it's like it just becomes this downward spiral, and then you're focusing on the wrong things. Your energy's going into the wrong things, and it's like, an analogy would be, the house is on fire, and I'm thinking I need to vacuum. You know, no, the carpet though. There's all this dirt.
The fire won't spread.
Like it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I really appreciate you being able to sit down and talk about all this, and and to me, I think that it's just the same thing where Michelle and your viewpoint, they align. Why? Because that's actually what's happening.
Yeah.
It's actually what's happening. And I would be up for anyone that was at the shelter when I was there that doesn't agree. If you want to have a sit down, we can totally do this.
Yeah.
We'll record it. We can meet wherever, and we can have the discussions. But I think that, moving forward, it's seeing that now it's kind of like I'm in cleanup mode of like all this stuff that's been created of
Other
like
people's messes.
of all this mess that people have created.
I know.
And I'm going, okay, I have to clean all this up and put out this fire that someone started. They're blaming me for the fire.
Yeah.
But it's not. And that's what I thought was very fascinating too, was that the perspective of these people leaving bad reviews is that when I got to the shelter, it got worse. Like,
no, the shelter was always a freaking chaotic place.
Yeah.
It was like, comfortable is not the word I'm looking for, but like, you're so used to the chaotic like environment where you're just like so immune to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I do.
when it actually got quiet, it's like, oh my God.
Well, that's actually what I was saying in it, was that I was like, look, it's because everyone was saying it's crazy. Like, I remember Pat saying, because she comes in and she would do work, and she's like, it's crazy, Scott. Like, it's quiet.
Yeah.
Like, I can like hear my thoughts.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
maybe that's why it raced when I got home, because I couldn't hear anything.
And so I just thought it's just where it's like there's like a buzzing going on in the background, but the buzzing was always there, and then that buzzing stops, and you're like,
what is that?
well, it's so quiet. Like, what's going on, right? And that's how it was. That there was just this chaos, and then it became where it was structured. And I had reached out to one of the employees that was doing adoption. She actually I think filled in for you and then got fired.
And
and
she
she's
did a
now
couple different things.
and now she's training dogs, and it's funny because I reached out to see if she would want to talk, and she said, I'm working on looking to train dogs, and that she said that she was inspired off of me and the program because of the structure that I was able to provide the dogs and stuff, and I thought it's crazy because I remember when she got hired on, she started working because she was afraid of dogs.
Yeah.
She's afraid of dogs.
I'm like,
and so I'm just like, well, it's really cool. I wasn't expecting that when I reached out to her saying that, like, what? And I thought that's neat. But I think that overall, it's me. I'm trying to just gather all this stuff so that like the shelter stuff can kind of be all addressed, so I don't have to waste time and energy moving forward. If people want to keep trying to like rehash past events, I can just say, here you go, here's the information. I don't have to keep having these discussions, because it's like dealing with the volunteers, where it's like, we literally just talked about this yesterday. Yeah.
Today's a new day. I'm just going to keep bringing it up.
But it's a new day, and so here we go again, right? And so it's just, it's like, I don't want to have to keep doing that. So again, I really appreciate the time that you took, especially being a mom with a young baby. But yeah, it's very, very helpful for me. Yeah. And I think it will be helpful for other people too that are curious and also just kind of are dog nerds.
Yeah.
You know, that like they're
Things are
interested
interesting.
in like what goes down in the dog world, right?
They're thinking about maybe working in a shelter. I don't recommend it.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
Yeah, if you are gonna do the shelter
Stop.
thing, like understand like it's an experience.
Yeah.
And then
Might take up drinking.
yeah, and then you might want to think about making your own.
Yeah.
That you have the ability to choose who's there and who's not, because I felt like if the internal culture isn't good, it's a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to chatting with other people. But yeah, are you planning on just stay at home mom for a while, or are you gonna look at getting back in the workforce? No, it's nice just being able to be a mom. And, I mean,
Yeah.
like they say, I mean, it's a full-time job
Yeah.
of itself here, right?
One that's 9, one that's 4 months.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I think that it probably works out better anyway, where it's probably,
cheaper.
I'm guessing too that it's less stress. Just being where you can deal with the kid aspect, you get the different things done while your husband's at his job, and then you can start, not like he comes home and it's not like, okay, now I have a whole job of listening to this whole day you went through, right? Like
He does say once I left, he's like, God, you don't bitch as much. I mean, I still
Yeah.
bitch, but not nearly as much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just part of the nature, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just how it is. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, but I could just imagine, like, because I mean, even for Thea and I, like, I would come back and it was just like, it was like a full day after work, just trying to explain and navigate what I'm dealing with, you know, because I'm like, and then that, and then Thea's getting stressed because it's like, what? They're saying what about you, you know? And it's like, this is ridiculous, you know? And it's like, I know, but I'm trying this and that, and then Thea was just really upset that I gave so much time and energy, and she's like, and what do you have to show for it?
Oh,
You know?
good one.
Like, it's
yeah.
it's like other than life lessons.
Yeah, there we go. That's
Yeah.
she hit it on the nose.
Yeah.